As gardeners, there's always mistakes that we can avoid. But for beginner gardens, here are a few mistakes that you really do want to avoid. First of all, the location of your garden. Make sure you pick the right location for your garden, and in that location, that includes whether it's containers, in-ground, or raised beds. Containers seem to be a wonderful thing to grow in. I'm growing in all containers. But there's an upside and a downside to growing in containers. As you can see, this container right here is a taller container. It's on legs. For me, it's just below waist high, which is fantastic. But as I have some plants growing in there, like my tomatoes, if they get tall enough, I'll need a ladder, a step stool, or a really tall person to help me harvest. Then the ones that I have down here that are lower to the ground, I still need to bend. So you need to find an ideal container that suits your height, your bending needs, or your harvesting needs. I love both my taller brown pots as well as my red pots. But as I continue to grow, ideally I will sit my red pots up on something that will make them a little bit taller. And if I decide to do raised beds, I will do really tall raised beds, and I'll just have to fill the bottom of them up, because the difference between raised beds and actual containers is that raised beds are still exposed to the ground. So you're going to get a larger plant, probably a larger harvest, more stronger roots, because the plants can go down. You don't have to water them as much as you do regular containers, because they will seek the water that's down in the soil below the ground. So pick the right location for your garden, as well as the right containers for your garden. Do you want your garden to be far away out in the back of your yard, or do you want it close to the house where you can run out and gather things for a harvest quickly and easily? You also need to make sure that you're planting according to your sun's location. Most plants need a fair amount of sun to continue to grow. There are some shade-loving plants, but even those need some sunlight. Always remember that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. And a quick note, if you can't figure it out, you can always pay attention early morning, probably anywhere from 7 a.m. to noon, to see where is your sun at and how it is covering your garden for the sunset. You want to check it maybe about 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. to find out, when is the sun setting in my yard? Where am I going to place my garden for the maximum amount of sunlight? You don't want to have to plant things, because then you're stuck if you're growing in ground. And that's another beautiful thing about growing in containers. If you find that you've planted something and it's not in a sunny spot, you can get that container moved to a sunnier spot. I'm wearing Farmer's Defense protection sleeves, both quality and durability, with a UPF 50 plus sun protection. You can avoid irritants from sticks, brushes, and any allergies from your plants. You can use them while you're trimming your hedges or going on a hike. Comfortable, beautiful, breathable, and made of 100% recycled material. For a 10% discount, use code CHEF86376 on any order. My watering source is actually on my patio, and it's not too far from my actual garden, but that's something you definitely need to pay attention to. No matter how much we love our gardens, no matter how much we love gardening, we all have our lazy days and our busy days. And the last thing you want to do is say to yourself, oh my goodness, I do not feel like going out there dragging that hose all the way to the back of my yard just to water some plants. It's going to have to wait until tomorrow. Because sometimes, depending on the weather, just that little bit of wait time can do some serious damage. Something's flying around. Serious damage to your plants. And you don't want that. You don't want all your hard work going down the drain simply because, oh my God, the hose is all the way over there. And if you do have a situation where maybe your hose is on the side of your house and you're gardening in the back and that's the only outside hose you have, then what you want to do is get a couple of hoses and connect them together, or a double spout, one that'll go to the front, one that'll go to the back. Connect those together and bring a reel like the reel that I have to the back, where you have a hose on the back, and all you have to do is pull it off from there. You don't have to worry about walking all the way around your house to the side of the house just to get some water. Make sure. And another thing, you don't want to have to lug water. We don't want to have to grab our watering container just to fill it up, going back and forth and back and forth. Not only can it be tiring, it can also be heavy. And if it's not heavy at the beginning, it'll probably be heavy by the time you're through. So make sure you plant your garden near your watering source, or make your watering source come to where your garden is located. Do not underestimate the power of mulch, especially if you're gardening in containers. It can help you reduce the amount of time that you're watering. It can keep your soil perfect. It can also keep you from needing to de-weed because it won't let those weeds go through. I have typically in the past used leaves from my tree. They fall and I gather them. They're nice and dry and they provide an excellent mulch. But to be honest, those leaves can be awful buggy, okay? And not only do I not want to go through them when I'm making them crunched up even more, and even if I go over them with the lawnmower and it crunches them up, I still have to handle them at some point in time, and they can be awful buggy. Sometimes I found that I've put bugs back into my garden. So this year I've decided to up my game in the mulch, and I'm getting some straw mulch, waiting for it to come in now. Be on the lookout for that video because I'll show you exactly how I'm going to mulch my containers with it. And if you are just starting your garden, you may be really tempted to grow whatever seems to be the very easiest thing to grow. But what good is that if it's something you don't like to eat or your family doesn't like to eat? Not only are you wasting food, you're wasting your time, your effort, and your space in your garden, when you could be growing something that you like and you want to eat. You want to pick the favorites that you like, because once it actually produces and you get that harvest and you taste it, you're going to be excited and ready to grow even more. It may be a little harder, a little bit more difficult to grow those things, but you'll learn how to get it going and it'll be well worth it in the end. Another common mistake is planting your seedlings and your starts too close together. Will they grow? Will they produce? Probably, more than likely, but you'll get a much smaller plant than you would if you space them apart. And it's easier to space them apart as much as possible than it is to go back. Now, there are some seeds that are just too tiny to do it in the beginning, and you kind of have to broadcast them. But as you see the seedlings coming up, thin them till they're at least a few inches apart. This will give you a much larger plant, and you won't have to worry about thinning them out. Sometimes when your plants are too close together, all you get is this little bitty harvest, and you're like, what did I do wrong? And it's just because the plants don't have room to grow. They need room, their roots need room to grow. And if you're growing root vegetables like carrots and things, you want to make sure not only do you plant them, giving them space to grow, but something like a carrot or something, make sure your pot is straight down, or wherever you plant them at within your pot, it's not going on an edge or they're too close together. Because when you have carrots and things too close together, they intertwine. It is a root vegetable, and we're actually eating the root, and those roots will intertwine. If you want those straight carrots, make sure they have room to grow. Always respect the time of year that a plant is supposed to grow. Now, I know sometimes we have fall, and especially if you're in a warmer zone, you may have fall and it's like still 80 degrees, and you're like, can I plant this tomato plant? Yes, you can. Will it grow? Probably. but it may not grow to its fullest because it really may not have enough time. That hot weather that you're experiencing when it should be cooler and it's fall is probably temporary. So if a plant needs summer heat and spring, grow it in that. If it needs cooler weather, grow it in the cooler temperatures. Respect the time that each plant needs to grow. If you are new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today here in my garden. I really do appreciate each and every one of you all. Please take a second and subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell to all so you won't miss anything. For my returning subscribers and channel members, thank you so much. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. I'm Pam and this is Zone 8A. Anywhere you can sit a pot, you can grow a plant.